Steve Dooley, and I'm the Executive Director of SFU Surrey. SFU Surrey is proud to be co-hosting this discussion with the Downtown Surrey Business Improvement Association. I'd like to acknowledge Elizabeth Modell, CEO of the Downtown Surrey BIA, and Bonnie Burnside, Manager of the BIA. So welcome everyone to this meeting, and I do want to make a special welcome to all the council candidates who are also here, and we look forward to seeing you back here next Monday night for a candidates meeting as well. It's my great pleasure to introduce tonight's moderator, James Stewart. Jamie is a partner at Hamilton, Duncan, Armstrong, and Stewart Law Corporation. Jamie is also co-chair of the SFU Surrey Advisory Committee, and is also chair of the Downtown Surrey BIA. Jamie.
Good evening, everyone. You can see all our candidates are here. There's one missing. If he arrives, he'll hop into the seat that's allotted for him. Welcome to the BIA's Mayoral All Candidates meeting. I'd like to welcome all the candidates who are here and thank them very much for putting the time in to come and meet the people for whom they are asking to serve. One thing I want you to keep in mind throughout this whole process today is that, in my view, municipal politics is the most important level of politics that there is. This is the level of politics where you can all have an impact far greater than any other level. The decisions made at this level affect you far greater in your daily lives than do the decisions made at other levels. So pay particular attention today to what's being said, and we're going to try and keep things on schedule and be very precise about the timing. I'm going to explain to you a bit about the rules. And the point here is to get to know the people who are candidates for mayor of the city of Surrey. There's not going to be an opportunity really for any banter back and forth from the audience. This is an opportunity where candidates will speak, you'll hear them respond to questions, and hopefully learn something in the process. I'd like to thank SFU Surrey for their hospitality. It's a great facility. I'd also like to thank all of the Downtown Surrey Business Improvement Association directors and the interns who have made this possible, put a lot of work and effort into making this evening for us. Thanks in particular to Tracy Gravel and Bonnie Burnside, who's already been acknowledged. The candidates have all picked numbers, which is why they're sitting in this particular order. It's the classic thing, reach into the bottle, shake it up, and hope you get the right number. So, but because we want to interfere with pure chance, we're also going to rotate the answers through the numbers. So initially we'll start off 1 through 7, or 6 as the case may be, and then we'll rotate as we go along through the evening. The candidates will have 2.5 minutes to introduce themselves at the beginning and make an opening statement. After that, I'll ask each candidate 4 questions based on answers to questions that they were previously submitted to each candidate, and based on the answers which they responded afterwards. They'll be given 90 seconds to answer the question. I'll then ask, once they've all gone through that, I'll ask questions that have come from the audience as well towards the end. And at that part of the evening, the candidates will have an opportunity to answer 60 seconds for each question. And the number of questions we ask at that part of the program really depends on the amount of time that's available. And because we have a limited amount of time, all the questions will be in writing. There were cards and pens available where you could put your questions in when you arrived, and brief and to-the-point questions get a certain amount of preference in this context. I also want to remind you to go to the Downtown Surrey Business Improvement Association's website. The candidates have, by and large, put a lot of effort into answering the questions that were asked of them. All of their answers are posted on the website, and it's a much more an opportunity for you to get much more detailed insight into those answers. And to the candidates, please remember that when Tracy holds up the yellow card, you've got 10 seconds left. And when you hear the bell, it means time's up, and I'm going to talk right over you. And if you're successful, this may be the last time you have to actually follow anybody else's instructions. So, without further ado, we're going to get into the opening statements, and starting with Linda Hepner, candidate number 1 tonight.
Good evening, I'm Linda Hepner, and I'm running for mayor with the Surrey First team. This municipal election comes at a crucial crossroads for Surrey. Your vote's going to determine whether we go forward to a brighter future or we go backwards and turn that clock back and undermine the process that we have made to date. Since the inception of Surrey First, we've been determined to make Surrey a more desirable city in which to live and to invest. Good ideas can come from anywhere, from a new immigrant or from a long-time resident or from business or from an arts group. But all of that makes for a vibrant community with the harmony that those good ideas bring to the table. As someone who loves this community, I was appalled at the jokes that we used to hear about Surrey. It seems so long ago, but those were dark days. City Hall was plagued in scandal, and despite a growing population, there was insufficient investment in our infrastructure. The police were woefully underfunded, and Surrey really needed fixing. The only way to fix it was to work together, and that included the evolution of a Surrey First model. It took an independent like Judy Villeneuve in the arts community and an accountant like a Tom Gill to work together for the betterment of what our city could look like. And it is working. We've invested billions of dollars in new recreation facilities, in sports fields, in parks, in pools, in public art, and we've implemented sustainability programs to create a quality of life that is envied. We've introduced social programs to create a sense of inclusivity for all of our people and to celebrate diversity. We're committed to a greater public safety and to greater transportation to move people around this city. And just yesterday, the Fraser Institute released a study that says Surrey offers better value for your tax dollar than anywhere else in Metro Vancouver. So our team has made great strides with your help. Look how far we've come, and imagine how far we can go. Thank you.
My name is Doug McKellum, and I'm proud to be running for mayor of the city of Surrey along with the Safe Surrey Coalition. We have 4 pillars that we want to present to the citizens of Surrey. First one is to address the public safety. Traveling throughout Surrey for many months, our residents in all parts of Surrey are afraid, they're scared of the crime that's crept into their communities. We have a proposal we want to put forward that's action-oriented. We're going to bring in 142 policemen within 1 year. We're going to put those policemen directly out, all of them, onto the street and patrol. Because that's what our community wants. They want the foots on the grounds in our communities. We're going to double our bylaw officers from 24 to 48 because our community wants those bylaw officers to shut down our unregulated drug recovery houses that are infesting all of our neighborhoods throughout Surrey. Our fiscal pillar is to bring fiscal responsibility back to the city of Surrey. When I left, the city had no debt, 0 debt, and large investments that we receive revenue from. Today, Surrey has a debt of $245 million, and they pay $6 to $7 million a year in interest expense. We want to fix this. We're going to freeze property tax for 2 years in a row. We're going to reduce the overall budget of the city of Surrey by 3%. Third pillar is we're going to change the governance of Surrey. We're going to bring in the ward system. 4 wards, 2 councillors in each ward, making a total of 8, same as we have now. Gives better representation to our different cultures and better representation to the different parts of Surrey. And fourth, in transportation, where I have had a tremendous amount of experience as been chairman of TransLink, we want new buses into Surrey. Surrey has received no new buses in the last few years. We need more buses, we need especially more community buses, and we need to complete the shelter. So the Safe Surrey Coalition has the answers. We want your support to put those into force, into action. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next is Grant Rice.
Thank you. I want to thank the Downtown Surrey BIA and Simon Fraser University for hosting this event. I'm a recent graduate of Simon Fraser University, having just finished my Master of Urban Studies. And this is a great hall here. Been to it many times to listen to events. As recently as last Friday, there was a lady from the University of Dalhousie speaking here on suburban planning. Not a very well-attended event, but I think we really need to have more educational opportunities like that and get people out to Simon Fraser University on a regular basis. It's a great spot. I've been a community actionist for 12 years. When I say actionist, it's a new term I've learned recently from Dr. Wayne Roberts, who spoke at Metro Vancouver's Food and Planning Conference recently. And he looked around the room and he said, you aren't actionists, you're not activists, you are actionists. Because you're not just waving placards, you're making change. You're making change on a daily basis. And that is what I've done for many years in this community. I've been a president of a Ratepayers Association for 8 years in North Surrey. I've also been a director with this Surrey Association of Sustainable Communities. And we work very hard to try and broaden our communities and make them better places to live. I'm running for mayor. When I tell people I'm running for mayor, they have 2 reactions. One is, are you crazy? And the other one is, great, I have somebody I can vote for now. One of the problems that I'm finding is that we have the big 3, I'll call them, and they happen to be flanking me today, that the developing community has backed candidates and councillors and mayors over the years, and the opportunities for individuals to run grassroots campaigns are almost null. So what I'm hoping to do is seize back control of the city from the developers and hand it back to you folks, the citizens of Surrey. To run a grassroots campaign, you could do it on a couple of $1,000s, and that's what I'm doing. So when people phone me up and say, Grant, can I have a sign? I said, well, I can't afford a sign, but what you can do for me is you can make a sign. Let's repurpose some old materials, write to Grant Rice for mayor, and put it out on your lawn. Politicians can't solve crime. I know that's the #1 issue in this election, but they can't solve crime. So what? That would go quick, 2.5 minutes. Are you sure, Bonnie? Thank you.
Thank you. And our next candidate is Berinda Rosodi.
Hi, I'm Berinda Rosodi, and I'm so pleased to see so many people here tonight. This is a great opportunity for all of us on how we can build a better city. And I welcome all the candidates and wish them luck as we engage in our first panel discussion of this election. I'm joined by members of the One Surrey team. We are committed to making tough decisions that are necessary to build a better city, because I know we can do better. We've made progress, but we've also learned some very valuable lessons. But all the progress we have made is in jeopardy if we don't feel safe. We can't ignore Surrey's crime problem any longer. The longer the wait-and-see approach is in place, nothing will change. Every day people tell me neighborhoods are suffering, businesses are shutting down, and investors are backing away. It's time for new ideas and new approaches to a long-standing issue. If we make it a priority, Surrey can be one of the safest cities in Canada. Everyone in this election wants to be tough on crime. The one Surrey difference is that we're being smart about fighting crime. Hiring more police officers is definitely a part of the solution, but it can't be our only strategy. We've created the only comprehensive crime plan in this election, and it's a plan that can be implemented immediately. We can't afford to wait years for action. Our 360-degree plan, which was developed by Canada's longest-serving police chief, Chief Jim Sesford of the Delta Police, is one that includes a really thought-provoking and engaged approach to making some immediate solutions. Our team includes 2 members of law enforcement, Cal Desange with the Vancouver Police Department and Merv Beta with the RCMP. Combined, they have 60 years of law enforcement experience. Our plan is tough and it is smart. We will hire immediately 200 community safety officers that will act as the eyes and the ears of the police and respond to low priority calls. They will work with schools to educate teens and youth about the bad choices of drugs and gangs, and high-risk youth will be made a priority. We will tackle underlying crimes within our community like domestic abuse, addiction, and mental health issues. Citizens have stated over and over again that crime is the #1 issue. We must get Surrey moving forward.
Thank you very much. And our next candidate is John Edwards.
Good evening. I'm running for mayor because I want to see change and I want to see it immediately. Ladies and gentlemen, it is true that there are problems in Surrey, crime being the most serious, which requires immediate action to get results. We cannot wait 2 to 5 years to see police on the streets. We need immediate action. Although most of my opponents have participated in government as mayor and on the city council, their records don't indicate that they've made any successful attempts, really, to deal with the problem of crime. 25 murders in 1 year, 20 in another, and then the senseless deaths of Julie Pascal and Serena Vermiche. Why vote for the same people who have had an opportunity to change the situation and have proven that they're not capable of doing that? Re-electing them only means more of the same. It is time to elect a mayor who will bring a fresh approach to the living conditions in our city. My many years of experience in senior positions in the healthcare and business and the non-profit sector qualifies me as a leader who will bring the changes that are desperately needed in our city. I will not ignore our youth who have shared with me. I will not ignore our seniors. I know that crime is the first and foremost on our minds and in our community, of course. The truth is that we also have other problems, one of which is jobs for our young people. It is said that 90% of the crime reduction strategy is completed, but really, crime is still at an all-time high. So why really would you want to get them another chance to give us more of the same? It is time to vote for someone who will elevate our city to its rightful and respectful place in BC, in Canada, and in the world, with the addition of a convention centre and an Institute of Science and Technology for our brilliant young minds. For someone who will advocate for the mentally ill, who are our brothers and our sisters, our children, or those close relatives with drug addictions. For someone who will engage and prepare our youth for leadership.
Thank you.
Vote for me on November 15th.
Thank you. And our final candidate is John Lenson.
So this is what the front of the bus looks like. I'm John Lansky. I'm an independent candidate from Cloverdale, which is, part of the city of Surrey. We have to have a word system as we have our community police stations. Everything has to be compressed in an area so the response time. My initial response is to hire 24 officers, 4 to each jurisdiction, to walk around neighborhoods, look into businesses and say, hi, how are things going? That's what you got to do. You got to have a sense of community. I know you're going to have advocates that say, well, this area, you're advocating for your area. Like in my area, I'd like to have a new ice rink and a pool down in Cloverdale because the growth warrants it. So, it's all that everybody wants to have their little things, but we can't ignore the social issues in this city. I walk up and down King George Highway the last few days, and it's almost like being in the demilitarized zone in the Middle East. You have to, what we have to do is advocate that the politicians around the lower mainland reopen Riverview so these people can get the help they need, so the predators don't take care of them in this other way. So the funding is there, we just have the money and all this, but we just put it in the wrong places. We're getting into development, we're getting into businesses that we shouldn't be. The primary purpose of all levels of government should be in the form that you should be doing the people's business and not giving people the business. Thank you very much. I'm John Lawrence.
Thank you very much. Now we're going to move into the questions. I'm just going to reiterate for those of you who arrived later on, we asked all the candidates questions in advance. These questions are the questions we're asking tonight are based on the answers that came from those when they answered those questions, and also from the candidates' own websites. We'll ask each candidate 2 questions, one after the other. They'll have 90 seconds to answer each question. And we're going to change up the order a little bit and then run through the candidates one at a time. So just to be clear, each candidate, 2 questions, on to the next candidate. And once again, I remind you that those answers to the earlier questions are all on the Downtown Surrey Business Improvement Association's website. So as far as I understand the dance of things now, Doug McCallum is the first person to answer questions. And my first question, sir, is you've outlined a 6-point plan to address crime, but could you provide more information on what you see as the root causes of crime, and how would you deal with those root causes?
One of our platforms in our public safety program is to put $4 million each year for 4 years, $16 million into basically addressing the root causes of our crime in our community. Those root causes could be mental illness, could be addiction, both alcohol and drug. We will take that money and we will work with the nonprofit organizations and the social agencies in the areas in Surrey to allow them to use the $4 million so that they can help the problem areas and also to help people that have or are affected by addiction. It is important to recognize that we're not the experts on it, and the people that have been working in our communities and very many nonprofits and social agencies are the expert in how to deal with that. And we will put that $4 million towards the nonprofits to work with people with addictions.
Thank you. And your second question, sir, is you're making a commitment not to raise taxes for residents for at least 2 years. Does this commitment extend to businesses as well? And actually, a second part of that, and how do you plan to enact your 6-point plan to address crime without raising taxes?
First of all, to answer whether it affects businesses, the answer is yes. We will freeze business, any increases to business, along with residential taxes. Our 6-point safety platform is costed out on our website that is $21 million per year. We will achieve the $21 million by shutting down the Surrey Development Corporation, which owes the city $70 million. We'll use $10 million of that 70 towards the 21 million costs. We will use 1% of our 3% costs in our operating budget, which would represent $5 million. And we would also use money that people pay that move to Surrey. They pay roughly $20 million a year of people, the 12,000 people that move to Surrey. We would use $6 million of that, and that fully funds the $21 million costs for our public safety program.
Thank you. Now the next candidate to answer questions is Grant Rice. Your first question, sir, is what do you see as the root cause of crime in Surrey, or causes, and what is your strategy to deal with them?
The root causes of crime include a lack of community. We aren't gathering as communities like we used to. I think people don't know their neighbors as well. In my neighborhood, we look out for one another, we put each other's garbage out for each other, and we look after each other's homes when people are away. I think we need to build more of that sense of community. The other thing is that we have so much poverty in this city that we have to tackle that. We have to start working on a housing first model. So many people are out on the street, destitute, that we have to start doing something about that. In this society that we live in that's so wealthy, there's no reason that people should be left behind. One of my plans is to funnel some of the money from the secondary suite fees into providing affordable non-market housing. Also take the Surrey City Development Corporation and repurpose that into a housing corporation so that they're not competing in the private market, making breweries and hotels. Instead, they can be building rental and market and non-market rental housing to house people, because we have to start housing people, and that's how we're going to start tackling crime.
Thank you. And your second question is, when asked about ensuring affordable housing throughout Surrey, you mentioned that you would redirect SCDC and ensure that the city's bonus density provisions were fully utilized to help fund this. Perhaps you could explain how that would work.
I almost kind of answered that question already. So the part of it that's the density housing bonus, what's happened in the city, there was a moratorium put on density bonuses. So what happens if you ask for an extra, say, 12 stories on a building like Civic 3? Originally there was a provision in place that the change in the land lift would provide a bonus to the city in a form of whatever millions of dollars, but we foregone that. It was changed in 2008 because of the recession, but since then the moratorium was extended on that. So we've given up a lot of building revenues, DCCs and density bonuses over the years because of that. And that money could have gone straight into building affordable housing.
Thank you. Now our next candidate is Brenda Rissotti, and your first question, Councillor, is in order to receive current available funding from the provincial government for a purpose-built shelter, which you indicate you support, land must be designated and properly zoned as soon as possible so that the funding is not given to another community. What will you do to ensure that Surrey gets this funding?
I think one of the things that's really critical, especially when we talk about supporting those who are homeless in our community in extreme weather and in the winter, is to have all of those things as a long-term part of our plans. What we do is we go year to year struggling with not only where the shelter will be located or where the money is coming from, but we have to look at Vancouver's example. There's no shortage of BC housing money or money in terms of supporting those with mental illness going to that community. And I think that our planning process needs to be different, and we need to have long-term planning around the shelter so that it's built in a place where it's absorbed into the community without having negative impact on businesses. And I definitely know and feel that this year we could have and should have done a better job. And the challenges we have is that we're not doing a good job of educating and letting the province know that we're not only open for that type of service, but will facilitate it in a way that the neighborhood will be able to observe.
Thank you. And your second question is, with the upcoming March referendum on transportation funding, what strategy do you have to ensure a yes vote from the voters in Surrey?
Well, that's an interesting question. I think that one of the things I hear from both business and residents and the impact that it has on our youth and on manufacturing plants like in Campbell Heights and Port Palace around the lack of transportation, or when you see at 6 o'clock in the morning moms waiting with strollers as buses pass them by. I think what's really important is the strategy we have to have is that Surrey has to come first. I did raise some concerns and questions around the transit plan that was forwarded, because I think while we have a long-term vision with our LRT that I support, what we haven't done enough of is advocate for solutions that would put more buses on the road now and buses that would connect all of our town centres, including Cloverdale. And I think that getting support for the referendum will only come if what's being proposed actually meets the needs of our residents. And I think we still have some big questions there.
Thank you very much. And our next candidate is John Edwards. First question. You state that a supervised injection site in Surrey is badly needed. Please explain why and how you would sell this to the citizens of Surrey.
I took the time to go down to Vancouver to do a tour of the Insight facility there. First of all, I'm a psychiatric nurse and an RN by profession, and I've dealt with addictions and part of my professional practice. When you see all the needles in the parks and so on, and kids running around, it seems to make sense to me that as a society we have to be responsible and make sure that we're not sort of compounding the problem by not having a safe place where the addicts can go. And I would like to medicalize addiction. I think it's a disease, and we shouldn't treat it any differently than we treat diabetes or some other such chronic disease. So in terms of selling it to the citizens, I think safety is everybody's concern. And I feel that if citizens understand that we're working in their best interest, particularly to protect our kids from, in fact, contracting diseases by needle sticks and so on, then I think it would make perfectly good sense to the citizens if we can do it that way. And secondly, it's a best practice anyway. The Vancouver Insight facility has proven that it works, and I don't think we should have to reinvent the wheel.
Thank you. Your second question is, one of your ideas for economic development in Surrey is to establish a convention and tourism authority to manage a convention centre and market Surrey internationally. What would be the benefits of this initiative, and where would you put the convention centre?
I visited every single major convention centre in Canada and across the United States, the Middle East, and Europe. And for a city the size of Surrey, I think that 500,000 people, there are only 4 or 5 other cities that are larger than Surrey that has a convention centre. I really feel that we are sitting on a great opportunity by sort of internationalizing, if you will, Surrey as a sort of international city. A convention centre is going to bring visitors from around the world, make this place a destination city, as it were. And I believe that it can generate an awful lot of secondary businesses around the convention centre in terms of small businesses that will feed off the convention centre. But more than that, I think we can compete with Vancouver and Seattle and Victoria for convention business. If you look at the total revenue generated by the 19 centres in Canada, it's close to $3 billion, employing about 3,600 people. So I think that the proof is there that in fact a convention centre is needed for the city of Surrey. Why Cloverdale? If you look at the transportation systems around, I know somebody said the services aren't there, but you've got 176, which is straight through from the US border to the freeway. You've got the Bellingham Airport to feed the centre. You've got Abbotsford. You can always renegotiate with Air Canada to bring services in. And it's quite easy. It's no more than 25 minutes to get from Vancouver Airport to Cloverdale anyway.
Thank you. Our next candidate is John Walensky, and your first question is, you have stated that your reason for running for mayor is that the social issues in the city have not been properly addressed. How would you address them?
First of all, we can put people in shelters, but that's only a temporary thing. Everybody needs a home, so we should get the federal government to put the National Housing Task Force or whatever they used to have. This becomes a national issue. Transportation should also be a national transportation strategy. So all levels of government, senior levels of government have been downloading forever into this municipality, and people just say, okay, we'll just take it, but they should pony up and use their responsibilities and we can fund these things. Because 8% of the tax base is only goes to municipalities, 42% to the provincial sector, and 50% federally. So they actually have a disproportionate share of the proceeds, so we can't really do much with a small stipend.
Thank you. Your second question is, your strategy to deal with the root causes of crime is to know the neighbor, or know thy neighbor, I suppose, and provide local jobs. How would you implement this?
Well, in 2008, I brought that up, about the Know Thy Neighbor, and also we can expand the Block Watch program, and this thing about sending resources out of province. We should just start manufacturing value-added goods in our communities, give people jobs, keep the money here, and then we would solve that problem. The job is the best to implement that strategy, and I think we can do it if we all put our shoulder to the wheel and carry on with it as best we can. Thanks.
Thank you. And finally, this round, Councillor Linda Hepner, your first question is, when asked how you will keep the momentum going regarding how the community feels and their sense of pride in Surrey, you stated that you will continue on with the initiatives that have been moving the city forward. What are your plans to add to what has been started already?
Thank you for that. I think one of the most significant things we've been able to do is look grown up to the rest of the world finally. And it would be my intention to continue to do that through things like our Innovation Boulevard and the reputation that we have gained relative to that whole corridor around technology and health and advancing that sense of Innovation Boulevard, the same as we have around in California when you hear about the Silicon Valley. I think Innovation Boulevard has created national and international attention, and it would be my intention to expand that into other sectors as well as health and technology, to include agri-innovation, to include clean technology, to include advanced manufacturing. And I think the reputation we're getting around that is significant, and I would really be brokering that on expanding.
Thank you. And your second question, social problems in Surrey are said to be worse now than ever before. How do you plan to address these issues?
I think as a city, we have really taken social policy and advanced it through things like the poverty reduction strategy. I don't think there is another local government. Certainly we've been asking the province to develop that plan, but we have gone ahead and done it. We have also put $9 million, the only local government in the entire country, that has advanced a homelessness and housing fund. And through that fund, we have, over the years, dedicated $2.5 million in grants to do things like the Quibble Creek Sobering Center, like the Maxine Wright, like the Phoenix House. And advancing those projects, I think, is really important to make sure that we have partners at the table when we're doing social policy projects. We're certainly prepared to be at the table, but we want our provincial partners to be there with us as well. And I think recently there's the announcement around the $62 million and helping with the rent of those at risk of homelessness will be an advantage to Surrey.
Thank you very much. All right, that ends the first round of 2 questions each, and on the second round, the first candidate to leap into the fray is Grant Rice. Sir, your first question is, in terms of economic development, you state that we need to position ourselves as the best place to live and work in the region, so the businesses will choose us as the BC headquarters. What would you do to make this happen?
It starts with livability and making sure our neighborhoods are safe and making sure that we protect our green space. One of the things that I'm most distressed about as I look at the past 18 years of these 2 councils that have been here is that our green space has not been protected. Thousands of trees are taken down every year. And when you look at some of the developments, it's always the easy way to pay the fee, the $200 or $300 per tree fee, than to work around those trees and save some of them and densify the development that's happening instead of cutting clear cuts everywhere. This city is full of clear cuts, and I think we need to start addressing that, having some smart development. I'm not against development. I want good developers in this city. I want good developers who have a stake in this city want to stay here, want to be our neighbors, want to stay and make this place flourish. In order to attract people to this city who want to live here, it has to look like a city that is welcoming and a beautiful green city. Let's go back to the city of parks. That's the city I moved to, and that's the city I want to stay in. Thank you.
Thank you, and your next question is, you have been very involved in learning about best practices on transit funding. What stable funding sources would you advocate for and why?
I'm going to go off base with the people in the Moving and a Livable Region Coalition. I've been attending meetings with this group downtown Vancouver. There's a few of us from Surrey that have attended, but it's mostly Vancouverites, and there's people from TransLink and people from the engineering groups in Vancouver, a lot of businesses. One of the main things that's not in the mayor's plan that I would like to see come back is a fee on containers. Most of the infrastructure that's been built in this region has been for the movement of goods from China to other places throughout North America. We have no benefit from that. We build billions of dollars worth of roads and bridges to make that happen, yet we have no benefit from that at all other than a few jobs. What I'd like to see is a container fee that is attached to every piece of container that goes through the ports, put into transit, because we have been great at building bridges and roads, but we have done nothing for transit, and we need to properly fund it. The rest of the mayor's plan is pretty solid. I'm going to advocate for a yes referendum very strongly, but there's a few pieces of the puzzle that I think are missing that should be back on the table.
Thank you. And next is Brenda Rossotti, and your next question is, you indicate that you would consider a hybrid ward system for Surrey. Please explain what this means and why you think it could be an option for Surrey.
I think the call for the ward systems comes from the fact that City Hall hasn't been connected to residents and community associations. I think that what's really important is to have a voice from each town centre at the table where decisions are made. I think that as we have significant decisions both around public safety, transportation, and job creation in our community, that each town centre has to be treated equally. One, Surrey advocates that while we think it's very important that the neighbourhood representation take place, that 4 councillors be elected in a ward system, because the at-large voice is also very important. The challenge with ward systems is you don't want to create bigger government, but you also don't want to be put in a position where one neighbourhood is bartering against another. I think one of the things I learned from the town hall meetings that were conducted throughout the city is that all our needs are quite similar. There was very few things that were different, and one common goal we had was for a better city. And so the hybrid system would allow for the neighbourhood representation, but also then have the at-large to make sure that that bartering and that bickering between town centres doesn't take place.
Thank you. And your next question is, other than address Surrey's crime issues, how do you plan to position Surrey to take care of business globally?
I think that, Surrey is such a unique community, so diverse and so rich in opportunities. A large industrial land base. We have the port and the 2 border crossings, the South Fraser Perimeter Road. We are going to be the next economic hub in this province for sure, but certainly in the country. And how we do that is by making sure that the #1 need of businesses is addressed. And what I have heard over and over again is that until businesses feel that the community is safe, nothing else matters. Businesses tell me that the #1 preventative thing from them either expanding or selling units in the towers that we're building is that people don't feel safe in Surrey. So I think once we've addressed the issue of public safety with a comprehensive plan that will be implemented immediately, not waiting for the officers we desperately need as the only solution. The other issue is that we have a very young population, and we have a great skill base that's willing to be trained. I have 3 children. I hope none of them have to cross a bridge to go to work. but it's about sound, thoughtful planning that enhances livability, so businesses not only come here, but they want their employees and they want to live here. So I think economic development is a very comprehensive plan, and definitely one that we will be moving forward on, but nothing will move until we make sure that the city is safe.
Thank you. Next, John Edwards, your next question is, what plans do you have to involve the private sector in providing affordable housing throughout the city of Surrey?
I believe in Vancouver they are looking at whenever a development is built, a percentage of the homes are designated for social housing, as it were. And I think that's probably a good place to go with some assistance from government, really. I don't believe that we should be putting citizens who are in a sort of low income in substandard housing just because they're poor. I think that they need to have that self-respect maintained as well. So that's the way I would do it, quite frankly.
Thank you. Your next question is, you state that you would investigate the possibility of attracting more research and manufacturing facilities to enhance job opportunities in Innovation Boulevard. How would you go about doing this?
First of all, I feel sorry for the number of kids that are graduating our schools and that haven't got places in university here. I would like to see a third university that would focus on science and technology, and so that our brilliant young minds would have a place for post-secondary education to compete nationally and internationally as well. That's the first thing I would do. Second thing is our environment. I think we should be looking at clean technology, and certainly we have the ability to do that now, so that the environment is not destroyed for our children or grandchildren or great-grandchildren. And so I think it's a question as well of looking at the fastest growing sectors, as I can see anyway, healthcare, IT, and life sciences, having worked in those fields. I think this is a great opportunity for us, one, to use the very rich talent that we have in terms of education, but certainly making sure that we respect the environment by having those industries that would be, I would say, useful in helping us to maintain a decent environment.
Thank you. Next is John Walensky. Your question, sir, is you recognize that we need more funding for transit, housing, infrastructure, and education from the provincial and federal levels of government. What is your strategy to ensure Surrey gets its fair share?
Well, the basic thing we do is take a funding model by population. So around the Lower Mainland, you take everybody's population, and there'd be a per capita component in there, and then everybody, Surrey would get for 483,000 approximately people, and Port Midland would get for their 31,000. So that's basically it. The transit funding would go where the population is most be able to use it. Transit is actually a good economic booster. Even though business people realize that people can't get to the jobs, can't conduct business, it's an economic depressant. So this is what we have to do, is make sure that we have funded everything properly. Surrey has to have that light rail network. I mean, more buses initially, but the thing is, the light rail network was cut off in the 1950s. You could go to Chilliwack, but I'm sure that if we go through Cloverdale, you can see that most people would get on it, go out to Abbotsford or whatever. It would create a tourism industry that would more than compensate for its costs. Thank you.
When asked about your commitment to a strong city centre, you suggest that when building, try to fill in the gaps between the projects so as not to create a haphazard effect. What does this mean, and how would you encourage private developers to develop to fill in the gaps?
Well, you just do it by block, and that's just if you build housing above these business centers, you create the security, you create the environmental design for crime prevention. Thing is, the street activity can't be reported if there's nobody there. The police officers have actually done a good job with 36 officers. Those 24 I proposed that if you had them doing the groundwork, the other people could do the other parts of the crime prevention, it would actually work, because if you were to take double the police officers, half the budget for policing is in Surrey is half the tax base. It would actually eradicate to the point where you wouldn't be able to fix a bottle. So that's my proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Next candidate, Linda Hefner, your next question is, we know that you have worked alongside Mayor Watts and Councillor Hayne on Innovation Boulevard. What other initiatives do you have in mind for moving forward to attract business and good employment opportunities for the city?
I think the Surrey Development Corporation was constructed for doing exactly that. One of the things that I wanted to do is to advantage the people of Surrey with their own lands. This land does not belong to the city, it belongs to each of us. And what we do with that land and how it advantages both in terms of keeping our taxes low and maintaining our standard of we are the lowest taxed in the region, as well as providing opportunities for greater good projects. When we talk about affordable housing, that is possible because you can utilize some of our own land in partnership with a third-party developer and build something and get that lift for affordable housing. Surrey Development Corporation does that. When I hear language around $70 million in debt, that is the transfer of properties that belongs to the city of Surrey, belongs to you and me, and that value has gone over to the Surrey Development Corporation. It is a paper exercise. It is still our property. And so advantaging that and turning that into economic opportunities, a big piece of it. Secondly, the Innovation Boulevard and expanding that into the other areas and the other sectors of business, important. And more importantly, making sure we advantage ourselves with our Campbell Heights lands rather than selling those assets is really important to me as well.
And your next question is, in order to receive currently available funding from the provincial government for a purpose-built shelter, which you indicate you support, land must be designated and properly zoned as soon as possible so that the funding is not given to another community. What will you do to ensure that Surrey gets this funding?
I think that we have never been in a better spot as a city than we are currently to have 5 MLAs currently in government. And so making sure that that funding is available through our existing MLAs. But more importantly, we've already determined a couple of sites close to the hospital precinct that would be available and potential sites. And moving forward on one or the other of those sites is really, I think, where the answer lies, because those that purpose-built shelter should be near a hospital precinct, and that is our intention.
Thank you. And next is Doug McCallum, and sir, you're, and if elected, will you continue to support this initiative as a partner of Fraser Health and SFU?
Yeah, first of all, I fully support it. I think it's a good initiative. It creates new technology, new innovation, and Surrey certainly needs it, so I certainly support it. I would add on to it that when I was mayor, I worked very, very hard to get Campbell Heights up and operating for a lot of companies to locate. One big push that I did was to get a computer chip plant up there. It employs 2,000 people. It has valued added jobs with people that supply the plant with another 2,000 employees. Campbell Heights, we got approved as the one site in the world in the top 3 because we have water and power. And we worked very, very hard to get that designation, and it's there now. And innovation development then would be a big benefit to trying to get another computer chip manufacturing plant at Campbell Heights for the city of Surrey.
Your next question is, you state that it is not the role of the mayor to interfere in the affairs of the school board, yet parents in Surrey are extremely concerned about the overcrowding in schools. What role do you think the mayor and council should take to address this issue that affects 30% of our population and our parents?
Well, I do believe that it isn't the role of mayor and council to get involved in education. There is school trustees that are fully elected by you people in the audience and by the people in Surrey. They've done a good job over the years of lobbying on behalf of Surrey from the provincial government. And I think the roles need to be separated. But I do think the city can also help in new developments and working to be sure that school land is put aside for new schools in areas that the city approves new developments. I think we can also work and put pressure together on the provincial government to give more funding to our education system, and also more money in the capital program to build schools because of our growth that we have in the city of Surrey. So we can work together to do that. The thing that's important to recognize, we pay a lot of taxes provincially and federally, and we always need to lobby the governments so that we get our share back of the taxes that our residents pay both provincially and federally.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of the opening round of the questions, and next we're going to go to answering questions that have been posed by the audience. As you can see, we have a number of them. We'll go through them in the order that our team here has picked, and we'll get through as many as we can within the time left. Just to remind you that we're going to ask the same question of every candidate. We're going to start as we've been rotating through them, and then each candidate will have 60 seconds to answer the same question. So 4 different questions for each candidate. This time it's exactly the same question asked of each candidate as we go along. There won't be a test later. So, the first person to be answering today of this round is Rice. So we'll. Oh yeah, sorry. It's Belinda Rissotti. Sorry. Wrong page. Sorry. All right. The question. This is a transportation question. If the provincial government came forward with $1 billion for its regional transportation, but it could be used for either the Pattullo Bridge or SkyTrain, but not both, how would you choose?
Well, thanks, Jamie. That's a good question. I've been a strong advocate for the Pattullo Bridge, also for an expanded Pattullo Bridge. But the challenge is that I'm not an advocate of SkyTrain. I support wholeheartedly LRT. I believe light rail is less intrusive to neighborhoods. I think we can connect our town centers in a cheaper way. I don't think it's about moving people out of our city. It's about making sure that the livability of living and working in our city is enhanced. And light rail does that. Portland built $40 billion of investment and development around their LRT line, and it encourages people to shop local. So the question, if it's an either or between SkyTrain and Pattullo, and I don't think that transportation question should be that simple, and I think any government would be very short-sighted handing over $1 billion and then saying you can only use it in such a fashion. I support LRT and do support an expanded Pattullo Bridge.
Thank you. John Edwards, answering the same question. I'll read it again if you want. Or...
Sure, read it again.
If the provincial government came forward with $1 billion towards regional transportation, but it could only be used for either the Pattullo Bridge or SkyTrain, but not both, how would you choose?
I think the question is hypothetical, but I will try to answer it anyway. The needs we have really are to do with moving people within the city from point A to point B. I would be in favor, in fact, of rather than think about Pattullo Bridge, because you can't deal with US mix at the same time, is to really use it for SkyTrain and to be able to get people moving around the city, particularly where density is developing. I think it's important that people enjoy a transportation system that allows them to move within the city itself. So I would not be in favor of the Pattullo Bridge at all.
Thank you. John Wolanski.
My proposal is that Belinda and I have the same concept that light rail is the option. In Calgary, they have a C train that you have a pre-transit in the downtown core to enable the shoppers to boost the business structure. But if you go from anywhere in Calgary, from the town center, it's half an hour to any point in Calgary off the spur line. That's what we need here. You want to move people around, you want to get in the shop, you want an economic driver, that's going to be it. Those crossings come down, 5 seconds later the train's gone. There's also the elevated transit system has its problems, as you can see, it gets jammed up. And there's also the crime component, but we can keep the SkyTrain police, we can have drivers that would ordinarily run buses, they can run the SkyTrain to go both directions, and that's how I prefer the Patello Bridge as an option, if that's the only case.
Thank you. Linda Hepburn, the same question.
Thank you. First I try for double or nothing, so I can get 2 billion. Because I need that for the 27 kilometers of light rail, but I would be definitely advocating for the light rail system. It's the one critical component to building a city that is next up for Surrey, and it is absolutely fundamentally primary in everybody's mind to connect communities. So I use that money for light rail, and if do the phase 1 between city centre and Guildford, and straight down from city centre to Newton with a fast bus into South Surrey. But I'd really try for the 2 million so I could go out to Langley with phase 2 as well.
First of all, on Patello Bridge, when I was chairman of TransLink and all the mayors were on TransLink, we put aside $300 million in a reserve fund to upgrade Patello Bridge to last it for 30 to 40 years. My proposal would be to do that now, upgrade it, and using that $300 million that's already in a reserve account, it's actually about $350 million now with interest, and do Patello Bridge that way, and talk to the trucking industry to limit the number or hours that the truck's on the Patello Bridge. As far as light rail is concerned, I'm all for light rail. We should do the funding the same as all major infrastructures, 1/3 provincial, 1/3 federal, and 1/3 private enterprise. The P3 program, this can be accomplished in a year. We could start in light rail within a year.
Thank you. Next, Grant Rice.
There's obviously no SkyTrain fans in the room today. I take SkyTrain, I've been on it many times when it's broken down, and I take buses. My wife and I downsized to 1 car about 1.5 years ago, so I know the challenges of trying to get around Surrey by bus. And one of the things, if somebody were to offer me $1 billion, I'd go, okay, let's put half of it towards the Patello Bridge replacement, a 4-lane only, non-expandable to 6. We'll get the $300 million that Doug McCallum says is in the kitty already. We can replace the bridge. And then we'll put the rest of it into buses so that we can connect our communities. Not only that, we have to extend service in the evening. Most of the service workers that work downtown and throughout the region, they get back to Surrey Centre and they're pretty much stranded. They get back and all the community shuttles have shut down. I see those folks all the time. I used to go to evening classes, and it's awful what we do to our people that are cleaning our hotel rooms and selling you your food. We have to make sure that those people are looked after. We need more buses now.
Thank you all. That's the first question answered. And now the next question, and if I've got it right this time, it's John Edwards is the first person to answer the question. In regards to the aggressive per capita greenhouse gas reduction targets that the City of Surrey has adopted, do you support this greenhouse gas reduction without any negative modification for a minimum of 3 years going forward?
Short answer, yes, I support it.
John, answer, same question. I'll read it again if you want. Oh, sorry. Sorry. Pay attention when I ask the question. In regards to the aggressive per capita greenhouse gas reduction targets the City of Surrey has adopted, do you support this greenhouse gas reduction without any negative modification for a minimum of 3 years going forward.
I support it, but I also support a lot of environmental measures like City of Singapore actually has what is called Garden City. They have real trees on their boulevards, not the ones we have, I think.
Thank you. And Linda Hepner, your same question.
Do I support the sustainability charter that we've recently adopted for 3 years? Yes, I do. We've already seen in the last couple of years an 18% reduction in greenhouse gas, and I think we're going to be pretty proud of that biofuel facility when it goes up, and it's going to be the very first closed loop system in all of North America. It's going to pick up your garbage, your organics at your house, take it to our biofuel facility, turn it into fuel, put that fuel in the garbage trucks and put it all into the city vehicles. So I think that's something that we're all going to be really proud to do, and that's part of the sustainability charter and greenhouse gas reduction. So yes, I fully support it.
Thank you. Dr. Callum, the same question.
Yeah, I support it also. I think it's really important that we look at our air quality. Certainly in the travels that Donna and I have done the last few years, and we're in other cities around the world, it's important to have good air. It's in quality air, and certainly when you come back to Surrey, you recognize how fortunate we are that we have programs in place to protect our air quality. And certainly anything that we can do as a city towards that, then we need to look at. So yes, I do support it.
Thank you. Grant Rice, same question.
I certainly support the reduction of greenhouse gases anywhere. I've been involved in a couple of groups that are fighting the Fraser Surrey Docks coal terminal, communities in coal. I don't know if you've heard about it, a couple of kilometers down the road. And also Pipe Up, which is against the Kinder Morgan pipeline. Our role as an enabler, because all of these things travel through Surrey, we're an enabler of climate change, and we have to do our share as Surrey residents to stand up and fight these things. Kinder Morgan pipeline, the spill that happened in Burnaby, it was diluted bitumen, and when the diluent separates from the bitumen, it off-gasses and makes people ill. We don't want that stuff running through our neighborhoods. We don't want it running through Surrey Bend, and we don't want it crossing underneath the Fraser River. The Fraser Surrey Docks coal terminal needs to be stopped. I will do everything in my power as mayor to stop that.
Thank you. And Brenda Rousseau, the same question.
Thank you. One of the biggest responsibilities we have as elected representatives is to be stewards of our environment for our future generations. Definitely not only as we move forward to protect our environment, I support high-density development in already developed town centers. I have opposed going into newer areas and opening up NCPs that are premature, especially ones that are either in or alongside our ecologically very sensitive land. I know that my daughter asks me all the time about the trees, and I think that as we maintain the integrity of the environment, that every single tree counts. Moving forward, as we densify our town centers, transportation will be provided within the town centers, connecting those centers so that people are getting out of their cars. It's a very comprehensive plan, and the Sustainability Charter is just the beginning, and my commitment is to take it to the next phase and to make sure that we're doing more to maintain the integrity of our neighborhoods and our environment and saving more trees.
Our third question from the audience, we'll start with John Walensky. What is your commitment to the relocation of the North Surrey Recreation Centre, given that it is now 50 years old, is in need of major repairs, does not adequately meet the needs of the growing community, and is not the highest and best use of the property at its current location?
Well, we do seem to have a lot of property near north of there that isn't being utilized, so that would probably be the best place to put it, to put the infill structure I was talking about. And maybe we can build some more things around it, because if you go down the SkyTrain route, you also see is these empty lots, these houses that were knocked down 20 years ago. I remember Wally was 1986, you buy a bungalow for $65,000, those derelict houses are now worth $480,000. So there is property value in there, but we also have the issues of gentrification, so we have to be careful how we push people around without providing the social housing component for them first. So that's what we have to do, is fill in those gaps, block by block, so there's no gaps for the criminal element to exploit these areas. Thank you.
Thank you. And then to have the same question, what is your commitment to the relocation of the North Surrey Recreation Centre?
The North Surrey Recreation Centre is next on the list in terms of building the city and finding another spot for that centre, because we know that the value of that land, and we know how in the development of the city around that nucleus of what is now the regional town centre, that will be an important development site. So we will look.
The capital, it hasn't been renewed for 6 years. We intend to put more money in, reprioritize the uses of it, and also do it every single year so it's updated. The North Surrey Rec Center, if it needs to be relocated, and I think it does, it needs to still stay in that community up in the north, because there is a lot of people that are up there that need that type of facility up there, and so we can relocate it, but it still has to be in the north.
Okay. Grant, same question.
Yes, we do need to find a spot for it. I'm not sure that it's ready to be torn down yet. Those ice rinks are still in good shape. I actually got a job there when I was doing my recreation facilities management diploma program in 2001. I worked at this skate shop and was a leader on the ice, so it was kind of a weird transition for me, but it was a lot of fun. I think that what we have to do, though, is make sure that our recreation system is properly funded. I'd like to point out that when Doug McCallum was mayor, with all the tax freezes during those years, that we lost the best general manager of Parks and Recreation that we've ever had, Dr. Don Hunter, because he would not stand for any more cuts. And that's what happened. When you cut, eventually programming, it goes away and people suffer. So you have to make sure that you properly fund our recreation system.
Thank you. The number one thing for keeping kids on the right track is our investment into our sports programs. I know that as children feel a part of a community with their teams and their community centers, so is true for seniors, for women, for new moms. So definitely enhancing recreation and sporting activities is a top priority for the One Surrey team. But it also means creating gathering space for community. The community hub over the summer was buzzing with not only energy and ideas, but common solutions. And to have unprogrammed space for community to use at no cost is something that the One Surrey team is committed to, because we know building healthy communities is about partnerships. And as we are raising our children together, we not only need to increase the number of opportunities for them, but do it so it's not only affordable, but it nurtures community for all ages and for everybody in all town centers. But North Surrey is also number one on the priority list. Thank you.
Thank you. John Andrews, same question.
The one thing I haven't heard so far is getting the community involved and asking them, what do they want? I don't think that we as leaders, so-called leaders, we should be making the decision as to where it should go. I would want to go to the community and have a broad consultation to say, what would you like to see happen to this facility? And then, based on that, then I think I'll make the decision. But certainly, I do believe, in fact, that one of the drivers of crime is when kids do not have facilities whereby they can be redirected. And I would want to make sure, in fact, that whatever happens there, that, as Belinda said, and I agree with that, that we should really be looking at investing in sports programs for children, I think this builds character and it certainly redirects the energy into more social sort of activities, as it were. The other thing that I'm concerned about is displacement of people who found that neighborhood to be theirs. And then by gentrification, they have to go elsewhere. And this is one thing that concerns me. Thank you.
Thank you. So the next question put forward by the audience is this, and this question begins with Linda Hepman. What is your position on affordable housing? Do you support mandatory inclusionary zoning for new developments?
Mandatory inclusionary zoning. I support affordable housing in any number of scenarios. First of all, through the Development Corporation and the greater good projects that could happen with that. Secondly, through the homeless and at-risk, or the homeless and housing fund that we have. And thirdly, through our many partners in the community. I would be less inclined to put mandatory inclusionary zoning. I may look at things like, is there a possibility of a lift in opportunities where there's a project coming forward? I could look at things like, is there an opportunity to allow development cost charge alleviation because it advantages affordable housing, but I don't think I would put mandatory zoning, no.
Thank you. Dr. Callan, same question.
I think it's a good question. I think we do need to look at affordable housing. I wouldn't make it mandatory, but I would put emphasis that on any new development, we should be looking at some way to provide affordable housing. Currently in Surrey, we are allowed one suite per residential in Surrey. We also have a lot of nonprofits that the city works with. There's currently one on 24th that's looking to build some affordable housing down on 24th, just off King George Highway. Those are the type of affordable housing that we need to promote and work with the provincial government and lobby the provincial government to be a partner in that type of affordable housing.
Andrew, same question.
I think that those things are better negotiated with the developer and the city staff. That to force somebody to do something, they may just walk away from a project. I think it's important that part of their amenities be put towards affordable housing, but I don't think you should be forcing anybody to provide it. It should be out of greater good. There's certainly developments in this area that should have affordable housing as a component of it, because there is a gentrification problem in this neck of the woods. If you go to 104th Avenue, there's this invisible force field that we have this beautiful $150 or $200 million center that we call City Hall. But as soon as you cross the street, it's abject poverty, and there's something has to change with that. And if it means that developers have to pay a different fair share than what they're paying now, by all means, let's make them do it. Because they've been getting a good deal in this city. I'll tell you that they've been making a lot of money in this city, and it's time for them to pay their share.
I think what is mandatory is to provide safe, affordable housing. We definitely need more rental stock in the city. I think we need to encourage rental units, options also in rent to own, like other cities around the country have done. I think the mandatory part is that we need to create safe neighborhoods that also hold absentee landlords accountable, especially in areas where either their tenants or the vacant lot is causing havoc and creating huge safety concerns. So I think that as we encourage developers to be good participants in the economic development of our community, they need to be signing good neighbor agreements so that what they're building is good social stock in terms of rental housing. All of the ones that I've talked to are very happy to do that in a community where people actually want to move to because they feel safe.
Thank you. John Edwards, same question.
First of all, I would like to see, in fact, that this principle of NIMBY is gotten rid of, And the only way to do that is to have mandatory inclusionary zoning. Provided that we're going to provide all the services, transportation, certainly schools and those services that will be required. I think we really have to do a better job of working with the provincial government, but certainly I think since 1990, since the federal government reduced its funding on social housing, I think that those people that want to be members of parliament, we need to sit them down and say, look, if you want to get a vote here, you better talk to your people in Ottawa and get some funding back for social housing. We can't keep downloading from federal, provincial to the cities without having this model.
Your question.
This all comes down to the old thing on the 1948, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The basic needs of the population have to be met. The federal government has abandoned this strategy. Provincial government has taken it over, and then they said, oh, there's so many cities that decided to get into social housing. The responsibility exists. If you look at that charter, we signed that back in 1948, and Canada has been deficient in their responsibilities ever since. So this is where it lies, right at the top. Contact your MP, demand social housing, demand the federal government contribute its fair share.
So the next question from the audience is, we'll start with Doug McCallum this time. Safety is not the only thing to campaign on. What other matters do you regard as important?
First of all, I think in our travels around Surrey, the second issue that's just behind public safety is transportation. Everywhere we go, people talk about transportation, how many of our roads have disintegrated in the last little while. People find it really hard with very poor bus service, especially seniors. And last night we were down talking to a bunch of seniors in South Surrey where Translate's cutting the bus service to them. This type of thing has to stop. We're proposing, the Safe Surrey Coalition is proposing in our transportation that we need more buses, especially community buses, more shelters, which we hear are needed because of the service. And also we need to really push hard with provincial and federal governments to get funding for light rail.
Thank you. Same question.
It's really heartening to hear that our mayor from the past and Ms. Rissotti are advocating for a ward system because they've had so much time to make it happen, but all of a sudden it's back on the table. I've been advocating for a ward system in the last 2 elections as a council candidate, and so I will give you my plan now. It is actually an expansion of government. It would be 10 councillors. We would have 5 wards that would mirror the new federal ridings that are going to be put in place by next year. So the 5 federal ridings would each have two ward councillors. The top vote getter in each ward would be automatically appointed to the GVRD or Metro Vancouver Regional Board. I don't have time to give you all the details right now, but if you want to hear more afterwards, I'll talk to you.
Thank you. Britta Rissotti, the same question.
So the question is in terms of other priorities, definitely public safety, transportation, but I want to talk about smart, sustainable growth and the type of growth that has impact on our economic development. So as we welcome managed growth, we also want smart growth that has less impact on neighborhoods. Less congestions on road as a parent gets off work at 5 o'clock and struggles to get home and gets their son's skates on and gets out to the congestion on the roads. Road safety all comes from us not having a balanced approach to growth. And I think that that is the #1 issue that I heard of at the community hub over the summer, is that how we do this growth in a way that respects neighborhoods, gives people equal voice. I'm proposing a community think tank at the City of Surrey that on each individual issue we will bring residents in and give people voice on all city committees, including transportation and public safety, but to create a vision moving forward together.
Important matters other than safety.
Our greatest asset in the city is our youth. And I would really want to take money from the Surrey Development Corporation and redirect that to, these are our next set of leaders. And I'm so sorry to hear that, in fact, none of the other candidates are, are considering where we should put our investments. We talk about green space and all those things, but if we don't have young people who are prepared to step up, get training, to take over the reins of leadership, then I think it's a sad commentary for us, really. The other thing that I would like to see is to make sure that there's a far better connection between youth and our elderly. I see the great work that some of the young kids are doing, some of the schools here in connecting with the elderly. We miss the great opportunity when we don't take services like those, which are not very expensive, but the effect is incredible, and make sure, in fact, that we as city government, we enhance those services, really. The last thing that I would want, I really would like to see a third university here for our youth. This is critical to the future of Surrey. Thank you.
Thank you. Your turn.
Well, one of the things we haven't discussed lately is that there should have been a second hospital in Surrey. The 152 project down there, the land was actually offloaded to somebody else, but that was supposed to be set aside for another hospital. If you look at the wait times in Royal Columbian or Surrey Memorial, you'll see that there's probably a need for that. Vancouver has 5 hospitals, and one of the things I would do if I would become mayor is remove the parking levy on hospital property. Because people have not to worry about that little running back and forth for the $2. Thank you.
Make it like lead for all the rich.
Thank you. And Linda Hepburn.
Thank you. I'd like to remove that hospital levy too, if the hospital levy was something that local government could remove. Transportation would come really at the top of my list. I think that beyond public safety, we have to look at what is the way that we can best connect in the shortest time possible our communities. And to me, that is making sure that that light rail system is in place within the next 4 years so that we can connect at least through phase 1, Newton, Guildford, City Centre, and out into Highway 1, and then a fast bus to Surrey. So I would put right at the top of the burner, transportation. Secondly, beyond public safety and transportation, I think we have to look at our tax structure and making sure that our economic development policy and our balanced growth allows us to keep the lowest tax in the region, the lowest per capita spending in the region, and the efficiencies for which we have become noted, and making sure that we maintain that while we're balancing our growth with jobs.
All right, next question from the audience, and this one starts with Grant Price. I'm just going to read it out and then you make your own sense. Committing to boots on the ground once selected, know it takes up to 18 months to get them to Surrey, and the RCMP are not supportive of community volunteers because of safety issues.
I didn't make a commitment.
Would you like to make a commitment? Well, let's clarify that.
I think what I answered, and I'm not sure, I don't have my answers in front of me, I didn't print them off.
This is from the audience, so it's
okay, so what I was questioning though is whether the RCMP is the right policing model for a city of 500,000 people. And the other part of the question is, for a region of 2.5 million people, is it a good idea to have 7 different police forces? There's not enough integration within our system right now. There's police departments from different cities are not communicating properly. Things slip by the wayside. So it should be part of the conversation. We know that we can't get the recruits that we request. Kevin Dyke, who wrote an article about this just recently, there's a backlog in Regina for recruits. If we ask for 147 constables, we're not going to get them for a year and a half or 2 years. Like, you can make all the promises you want, but if they're empty promises, then they're no good.
Especially the editorial comment, good catch there, that was good. Perhaps I'll paraphrase that. I think everybody generally feels that there should be attention given to policing. So perhaps I'll just paraphrase this question by saying, Brenda Sodi, how would you attend to the policing issues in our community?
Well, I think that definitely the One Surrey team has put forward a plan that can be implemented in a cost-effective way immediately. It's evidence-based, it's a model that works in cities across this country. Jim Sesford is not only the longest-serving police chief in Canada, he is the one when I went out to the community and said, let's look at solutions. Over and over again, I was told, why can't we be more like Delta, where no call is too small, and the engagement of neighborhoods and community and business in the policing model is so critical to its success. Jim Sesford's plan not only calls for a 360-degree plan that is thoughtful of prevention, rehabilitation. It's about hiring 200 community safety officers as business watch, school liaison, but the one thing is it can be implemented immediately.
John Edwards.
We have a long-term contract with the RCMP, I think for 20 years or something like that. It was just signed. I think we have to have confidence in our law enforcement. And one of the things that I have asked for in my plan is to, in fact, the shortfall, I think, of 14 rotable officers, I would immediately want to see if we can get, maybe by bringing some of the retired RCMP back, and so that we can get this level of fear reduced among our people right now. We can't wait for 2 years and 5 years. That's ridiculous. When everybody is saying that fear, crime is the issue, yet here we are talking about 2 years to 5 years. The other thing that I would want to make my top priority is to ensure that whatever we do, we can really get the citizens to understand what we were doing is in their best interest. That's why we need to act right now. We can't wait until we can recruit our CMP officers.
Thank you.
In 2008, 2011, I ran as a consular, and the proposal for no call too small down at South Surrey Rotary House, that was what I was the one that brought that forward first. And then a secondary at the next event that it took place. The problem with the RCMP is a paramilitary organization. It doesn't have a board of directors to answer to. It's implemented to work with the fur trade way back in the 1670s. So this is what we have. We have a group of people that answers to Ottawa. So this is what you're up against. You've got to deal with the federal part of it as well as to keep your police force going. So it's not a localized detachment. And Delta's not going to actually merge into a group when they're actually, their support for their police is very high. They're not going to really want to integrate with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I 100% support the good and hard work that our Royal Canadian Mounted Police give to this city. And in terms of getting police officers here and on the ground doing preventative and proactive policing, Surrey First plan is to strengthen that contingent so that that happens as quickly as possible. That does not mean all new recruits. That oftentimes means lateral transfers. That means also promotions from within. So do I believe we can do that in the shortest possible time? Yes, I do. And I am committed to making sure that happens and neighborhood policing happens. But as well as that, we have recently approved 20 community safety officers on the street as well. approved to accept, with the exception of Councillor Rissotti, who opposed that motion. But I want those community safety officers also on the street.
Thank you.
Yeah, I fully support the RCMP. I think they're a wonderful police force. They have worked very hard in Surrey. We have, the Safe Surrey Coalition has said that we will bring in 142 police within a year. This was confirmed by the police chief at a meeting in Newton, which a couple of us attended. He said the contract allows us to have those come into Surrey within 12 months. That's what the contract says. He committed that if we, whatever number we wanted, we could get in within 12 months. Sir, currently they have 960 new recruits coming out of depot in Regina, and 142 of those isn't a big number for the largest detachment in Canada. So we are insistent that we will bring those in and we will put them on the street, not in officers, out on the street, on patrol, armed and have arrest warrants.
Thank you all for that. And now, question number 7. This one starts with Rinda Rissotti. Are you happy with the direction that City Centre is growing, and will you continue to support that growth?
Absolutely, I think it's a very good start, but again, all I am hearing is that the towers that were promised will be stalled unless we get a grip on public safety in the city. When you go to the sales centers, and I visited those sales centers, I've also spoken and met with the roundtable of all of the developers who are developing in that area. They are astonished at the cost that they have had to pay for additional security. I've talked to tenants in those buildings who don't feel safe. The challenge we have is that if we're going to commit to economic development in the city's town center, we need to make sure that our community is safe. That is why this comprehensive plan of the community safety officers, not commissioners, is so critical to building our community. And I think what else is really important as we're developing the town centers is we need to make sure there's good rental space available so that we don't have the proliferation of many suites into our neighborhoods. So I think that the plan will move forward, but we need to do a better job.
Thank you. John Edwards, same question.
In fact, I'm very impressed with the way the development is going on there. However, I'm really concerned about the level of homelessness and drug addicts in the area. I think if we're going to develop that area properly, we really have to think of the self-esteem that we are, in fact, interfering with people who want to stay there but they don't have the facilities. So I think we need a safe injection site somewhere in that area. I think we need to get those people off the streets, so that businesses and other people who want to use the facilities are not, in fact, in fear of our own people, as it were. So I think this is important to me. The second thing would be housing. Why on earth can't we just try and develop social housing in that area? If people have been living there for 10, 20 years, I think with gentrification, we're pushing them out to say, you're not really needed here, find us someplace else. They end up in Newton and wherever else, so we're not really solving the problem. Let's solve the root cause of the problem. Thank you.
Thank you. John Lansky, are you happy with the direction that City Centre is going, and would you continue to support that?
I don't mind that. I just have a problem with the tower size, the height, since this thing seems to block out the sun and creates a cold environment. If you look at the city of Pitt Meadows along Harris Road, they have 10 stories. 1 story is for the businesses underneath and 9 above. I know they have the airport there for height restrictions, but if you look at their town center, it's one of the most attractive ones I've seen in the whole lower mainland. So maybe we should go to sort of a lower rise model in that north of 104, just to see what it looked like, and then you could do, the infill would take care of itself. The developer needs to have a profit, but for a little boost in the cost per unit analysis, I think we can still ensure that they're profitable and at the same time make our city a much more attractive place to live. Thank you.
Thank you. David Hepner.
Thank you. My intention for the city centre is to keep the momentum going forward. This is what city centre looked like some few years ago, a strip mall. That is not what we have created now, and my vision is to keep that momentum going forward and to make sure that we can continue to build this regional urban centre that we are destined to become, and the second largest city in this province, soon to become the first. I'm absolutely committed to making sure that we have the transportation system and the continued momentum in building a great city that we have started. And that is the Surrey First commitment.
I fully support the city centre. In fact, the majority of towers there, including Simon Fraser University, was brought in on my term as mayor. I also want to commit even fully that we need to develop more. Talking with the major developers, they have put all their projects on hold because this council has formed the Surrey Development Corporation in competition with them. And also they have started up a new company, an environment company, that will be a monopoly on the heating and everything there. The developers do not want them. They're free enterprise, and monopolies by government is no place in this city centre.
I think that the building in the city centre has two flip sides. One is that the towers are not human scale development, and a lot of them sit half empty. There's a lot of land speculation that's going on in the city centre. If you have an empty tower, you don't have a community, and that's a problem in this city. The other thing is that the city centre seems to end at 104th Avenue. The area north of 104th is so badly neglected. It just makes me shudder to think of how we've botched this. We have a food bank in that neighborhood that serves over 15,000 people every month. Babies, young women, seniors who are, and 400 homeless people. You know, it's great building these beautiful towers, but what are we going to do about the people that live here now? I've lived in this community for 25 years, and frankly, nothing's changed. It's no better than it was 25 years ago. It's actually worse.
Thank you. We're getting close to the end of things. We've got time for at least another question. So this question, we're going to start with you, John Edwards, and says, Surrey needs to up its game in terms of creating a vibrant, culturally, artistic, and social city. What is your specific plan to accomplish this?
The arts. I think that it's true that if we're going to talk about crime reduction, that the arts is one of the ways that we can in fact do that as well. I would want to see that we are somewhat like Vancouver, where we really need to have perhaps other things like a symphony orchestra. We need to make sure that we don't have to go downtown to Vancouver for everything that we want to see artistically. I would love to encourage the youth to really get involved in their creativity, which we have here, and fund those programs. I think that's part of the problem we have. It's very expensive for people to put their kids into programs of artistic quality, you know, ballet and things of that nature. We should really be funding and investing in those activities. So that is really what I would do. Thanks.
Thank you.
I had the honor of attending the Vasaki Parade, 240,000 people, the wave of humanity. The thing that disturbed me most was the policing costs were put onto the organizers of that event, which is very onerous. Some of that should be community funds so we can have more of these events. So this brings people together, because when I walked down that street, you could see 14 blocks of people behind you. So this is what brought them out. The community gave away free food, free stuff, all day long. Nobody was asking for anything. So that's how you build community. You know, everybody bleeds red. We're all one color. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think the city needs a performing arts centre. And I think that we've got a cultural plan. It's aggressive. We know that 1 in 4 children in the city of Surrey are engaged in the creative arts. And one of our platforms within the economic development piece is that we wanted to include creative economy and a cultural corridor going all the way from the city centre right straight down to South Surrey, and making sure that we provide some opportunities for those creative industries. And that may mean some economic incentives as we sit around the table and talk about how that can happen. But we're going to create a cultural corridor in Surrey.
I think one of the big things that we can all be proud of in Surrey is our different cultures that we have, and they have all different ways to present their culture, and I think we need to encourage that more. I was at an event last weekend where all the cultures played different instruments together. It was one of the most astonishing cultural events I've been at in my years in Surrey. That's the type of thing we need to promote more with all of our cultures. Parades are becoming larger, and that's part of the culture to celebration. Many different events by many different cultures working together in Surrey. That's what Surrey is. That's the fabric of Surrey, and we need to promote it and encourage it and put funds towards it.
Congratulations.
I would do 2 very inexpensive things to start with. First of all, there were rollbacks to the Leisure Access Program about a year ago, and I would roll that back and stop that, put the funding back in that. It was miserly to my estimation. The other thing that I would do is that we should be increasing community grants. The Wally Festival, which is now the Downtown Surrey Festival, or Surrey Fest. What do you call it now, Lonnie? Surrey Fest. Groups like that get about $1,000 or $2,000 from city grants each year. Yet the Cloverdale Exhibition Grounds and their other whatever their other name is gets about $750,000. So out of the million, 1.2 million that's distributed towards all of the community groups throughout the city for special events and festivals, it's ridiculous. We're getting $1,000 or $2,000. It's not right. We have to increase that.
I tried to ask you to turn off your chickens. Next is Brenda Rossotti, please.
Thank you. There is no doubt that arts and culture defines community in such a positive way, and how each one of us defines art or culture is very different, as it is for each town centre. So I think equal focus on each town centre to enhance both public art, but opportunities, but definitely the contribution that volunteer and community organizations are making to the city. We need to eliminate barriers. Passing a motion for having at least free space in our city hall for the first year as a pilot is something that I would continue, because I think that organic grassroots arts and culture is very important to defining Surrey, as Wally's just approached on the heart of Surrey and defining themselves by their heritage and not being swallowed up by the downtown core. I think is something that we should encourage all of our neighborhoods to do.
Thank you very much. All right, well, thank you all very much. Now we're going to, in pursuit of our, that's all the questions we have time for right now, but in pursuit of our time constraints and to make sure everybody gets out of here on time, we've got one final phase of this, and this is the 30-second wonder session, where each candidate will have 30 seconds to sum up who they are, what they're about, why you should vote for them. And for ease of figuring things out, we'll just go for me that way. So 30 seconds and counting. Linda.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm going to ask you to take a look at the vision. Take a look at actually what on the ground you can see has happened over the past 9 years, and ask yourself a very simple question. Are we better off now than we were 9 years ago? And what more? What great things could we do in a positive way going forward. And please, on November 15th, everybody go out and make sure you have a choice in this election and you choose the future that is going forward for Surrey. Thank you.
I think we need to really look at our Parks and Rec and our children and our kids and our community. Part of our public safety is to keep our kids active so that they don't wander off in drugs and so forth. Very important. We need to have more money in Parks and Rec, and we certainly don't need to have a new city hall that costs the city $150 million. That money should have gone into the Parks and Rec for the children.
And Rice.
With 7 mayoral candidates and 37 or 36 council candidates, it's going to take a very strong leader, somebody who shows compassion, somebody who can collaborate with other people, somebody who can build consensus. And I believe I'm that person, and I'd like to have your vote on November 15th. Thank you.
Thank you. And the One Surrey team is committed to building a better Surrey. Our commitment is to working with you and neighborhood and business associations to make Surrey one of the safest cities in Canada. We have a plan that's evidence-based and will be implemented immediately, but what we guarantee is your voice will be at the table as equal partners as we build a future together. Thank you.
This election is about leadership, and I feel with my many years' experience in healthcare and the business world, I've worked across all cultures in various parts of the world. I think I've developed those leadership skills. And so I think that on November the 15th, what you want to ask yourself is who's best qualified to lead the city into the next 4 to 8 years. I think I can do that. So vote for me on November 15th.
November 15th, vote for the politics of not fear and greed, but politics of humanity. That's what I want you to do. Thank you very much, Independent General.